Davidson. Bruce, appreciate your time on Newzroom Afrika. I mean, both Swiatek and Sinner were under scrutiny earlier this year for doping-related suspensions. They, of course, maintained their innocence and are now silencing their naysayers.
Yeah, that was a sad moment for both Swiatek and for Sinner, and a sad moment for tennis because they're such great players. They both were found to be doping at the peak of their careers, and there's always going to be question marks about, whether their punishment was severe enough, whether they were guilty or not, and especially when they win big majors like this. Swiatek has really come a long way over the last 18 months. She's dropped her world ranking right down to number 6, and she's made an incredible comeback to win the way she did on Saturday. And then Sinner, obviously, he came out of his doping ban. I mean, it looks like he never ever had a ban. He's just playing such incredible tennis, and that rivalry with Alcaraz is now real, and we're going to be in for many years of unbelievable tennis.
Looking at Swiatek, I mean, she became the first player from Poland to host the Wimbledon trophy. They say if at first you don't succeed, you dust yourself off and try again. She had been trying, and finally it's in the bag.
Absolutely. And, it's always been a little bit of a jinx, the grass for her. She's already won, 5 Grand Slams going into Wimbledon. And, it's quite amazing that, you can have this absolute block against grass. A lot of players can't play on the Wimbledon courts. We must remember it's only played for 1 month in a year. They play on hard court and clay most of the time in the year. So the grass court's always a little bit tricky. But she has a very good game for grass. She gets down low on the ball. She's got an excellent return. And she all round very, very nicely on the grass. So I don't know what her problem was, but now I don't think she's got a problem because she played an incredible tournament. It did open up for her after the first week when all the seeds went out and Coco Gauff was in her side of the draw and also, lost out early. So I think that was the ticket for her to go all the way through to the final. But what a final she did play, and she was ruthless. And I think we're going to see a lot more coming from Iga Swiatek now.
I mean, I've been reading now since the triumph, there are those now that are downplaying her victory, questioning the strength of her draw that had Polina Kudetemova, Katie McNally, Danielle Collins, Clara Toussaint, Ludmila Samsova, and Belinda Bencic. Fair play from the critics?
No, I think that, when the draw was done, it was going to be a very difficult Wimbledon. But as I said, it was a historic one because I think there was only one tournament before, and that was at the French Open, where so many seeds went out in the first week. Now, when the seeds all crash out in the first week, those that remain are all of a sudden in the pound seats because now they have got an easier passage to go deeper into the tournament. So the critics can say what they want. It's the top players that, like Coco Gauff, who went out in the first week of the tournament, opened up the draw for people like Iga Swiatek, and they capitalized. Iga Swiatek capitalized on what had happened. It's not her problem that the players lost. She just had to maintain focus. She had to look at every single player because every single player can play ball. Nobody would have ever thought that Amanda would have lost 6-love to Iga Swiatek in the final. So she just played an incredible game, and I think the critics must just be quiet. She capitalized on a situation which a professional would always do.
A reminder of that dominant win. I mean, she crushed Anisimova 6-love, as you mentioned, in that decider, becoming the first player since Steffi Graf, 1988 French Open, not to lose a game in a major final. She also just dropped 1 set across the 2 weeks. Those, Bruce, are numbers that are definitely of someone who was determined to triumph.
Absolutely. And, I watched that Steffi Graf match that was actually at the French Open that year. And in order to win 6-love, you must realize that you've got to be playing very, very good tennis because, number one, you're playing on the biggest tennis stage in the world. You're playing in front of celebrities, royalties, and fans that are just absolutely crazy. And you're playing against a player that must be informed to have got to the final. So she's in good form. She needed this tournament to prove to herself that she's making this comeback. Remember, she was dropped from number 1 in the world to 6 in the world, and all of a sudden the doping ban came in, and all of a sudden she just couldn't win a match, and now all of a sudden she's back. And I'm looking forward to seeing her make a good challenge at the rivalry that we've seen starting between Sabalenka and Coco Gauff, and I think it's going to be interesting to have her in the mix. Threesome is always an interesting one, and we saw that with Djokovic, and Nadal, and Federer, and I think we're going to have a very, very exciting couple of years ahead with the three of them, Swiatek, Coco Gauff, and Sabalenka.
Moving to Sinner now, he became the first Italian player to win the singles title at Wimbledon. I mean, I remember 2021, Matteo Berrettini tried. Last year, Jasmine Paolini also reached the Wimbledon final. Major feat for the 23-year-old.
Absolutely. Italian tennis is certainly doing good things. I never forget Sinner as a 12-year-old playing in Manaki Junior Tour International Masters in Port St. Lucie in Florida, USA. And even then, we were talking about this kid being a real dominant force. Italian tennis were a shining light in those tournaments that I used to promote, because they had decided as a federation to look at the under 12 and under 14 players and start developing from a young age group, and hoping that they were going to get a crop of players that would dominate the top 100 of the world. And they didn't get it wrong, because there are so many players, and you mentioned a few as we went into this question, and Sinner has joined the mix. It's quite amazing how Italian tennis has taken off, because they got their grassroots program so well oiled, and now the fruits are being born from all that effort that they decided to do at that early year.
Sinner, fourth title, one less than Alcaraz. Do you see anybody being a hurdle for these two? I mean, new kids on the block. They've dominated the past 2 seasons, Bruce.
Yeah, this is going to be a big rivalry, and I tell you something, sporting fans and tennis fans who are watching this interview, mark my words, we are in for a great ride with Alcaraz and Sinner. I mean, already the rivalry is good. And in fact, this loss of Alcaraz is good for the rivalry, because now it's proven that both of these players can play on literally any surface. We've still got to get Sinner to win on clay, a major on clay. But boy, oh boy, if you look at the stats, it's so close. I mean, 21-20 in titles won. Alcaraz sneaks that by one more tournament. He's 5-4 on Sinner and Grand Slams. This is going to be an incredible rivalry. They're great friends off the court. They're great competitors on the court. And I think that we're in for a real treat. It's going to be an incredible rivalry, because both of these guys have got to push to all the limits to beat each other. And there is room for improvement. That's the scary part. Both Alcaraz and Sinner can still improve on their games. They're young enough to improve on their games. There's only 1 year difference in their age group. And I can tell you now, we're in for a great, great ride.
Bruce, appreciate your time here on Newzroom Africa, and it's just giving us, of course, the reflection to Wimbledon. And of course, in this new era that sees some of these young tennis players taking over in the men's side, Jannik Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz. On the women's side as well, you've got your Coco Gauff, Iga Swiatek, and the Arina Sabalenkas also taking over from the WTA side. So appreciate your insights. As always, we're going to continue the conversation, of course, with the US Open still coming up. That's us from the Sports Desk this evening.